Today, I'm here to tell you that you're never going to get the job training that you need. And I'm only 39 years old, and I feel like I'm way too young to say this following phrase, but back in my day, we actually had training when I was younger in my career, maybe 12 years ago or so. And you would have some things that you can review before your first day. They might give you once you sign your contract, your offer, all that kind of good stuff, they would send you maybe a PowerPoint to go over, some training videos actually made by real humans in the HR department that you could watch so you can get a general idea of what the company values, what they expect, what the culture is all about. And then you spend the first week or two, you would meet the people, do your rounds, figure out who you're going to be working with, what other teams you're going to be working with. But in addition to that, you would also go to an in-person training, and they'd have usually like these onboarding classes, back when companies still hired. And you'd sit in there, maybe there'd be 5, 10 of you, whatever, and you would all also then get new information that way as well. So you'd have information before you started your organization. You'd have training starting on your first day for a week or two. And then you would do some on-the-job training. You would have some job shadowing. So you would go to a senior level and maybe shadow them, see what they do, see how they approach things. And you'd have conversations with them and you'd really get up to speed that way. You would just be a fly on the wall in meetings that maybe you'd have nothing to say, but you can absorb who the people are, who the key players are, what their personality is. And really, 4 to 6 weeks in, you'd be pretty set as far as your training. You would know what's going on from a company culture perspective. You would know what's going on from your department, and you would actually be able to shadow the person above you and also probably the person at the same level as you. So you'd have a pretty good feeling of what's going on and what would be expected of you and what's expected of people already in your department and on your team right now. So you'd be able to read things, you'd be able to watch some movies, and you'd be able to physically see your coworkers in action. And nowadays, formal training is gone because they don't want to train American workers anymore because these companies don't even really want American workers. Their main goal is to just have enough warm bodies so that they can get their tax breaks, tax write-offs, whatever on rent, force everyone back into office. And if they don't want to come back into office, even better, because the problem just handles themselves. They don't even have to necessarily fire them. You're essentially quitting if you don't want to return to the office. And really, as many people as they possibly can, they're going to try to get from overseas. They're going to try to get people from India, the Philippines, from Mexico, whatever, because to the corporate bottom line, an American salary is too much. And we talked about before that for a single person to make ends meet and to have a basic life where they're not living in the projects, the ghetto, where they not have to necessarily drive around a hoopty, where they can just have the basic necessities of life, food, clothing, shelter, nothing extravagant. It costs about $106,000 in like a major city these days in the US. So if they can cut that down even by half, that's a big win. Now, I read one article where I see some people in India are making like $5 a day for the work of an American who maybe is making, $80,000, something like that. But even if the gap is not that big, okay, let's say we just cut it in half. That's a big win. 2 for 1, maybe 5 for 1, sometimes 10 for 1. It depends on how much money these corporations were paying seasoned American workers compared to just trying to get people in other countries. And maybe they can get people as freshers, as they call them, straight out of college, and maybe they'll do a little bit of training because The training materials are already done. The trainer themselves is also going to make a fraction of what the HR trainer is going to make in the States. And maybe they'll do whatever it takes to train up people in other countries since they're saving so much money on labor. Also, a lot of times, if someone is in another country, they don't even have to pay for benefits. So they're not paying health insurance, they're not paying for PTO, they're not paying for any of this stuff, on top of getting a huge break in the salary that they have to pay to their employees. So I understand the business side and the math behind why there's not training anymore, but today let's just indulge ourselves and let's remind ourselves of some of the benefits of training your American workers. Let's dive in. Today's article that I want to go over with you is from Lorman.com, and the headline is 39 statistics that prove the value of employee training. And I'm not going to go over that whole article. I'm not going to go over all 39 statistics, but I will list and leave the article and the link to the article down the description below so you can read the full thing for yourself. I'm just going to go over the highlights and how it pertains to what we're talking about today. And this article is from 2021, so it's not from 2024, but I mean, I tried my level best to find an article basically on why companies don't train anymore. And I believe it to be the things that I just talked about, right? It's just too expensive. They want to outsource people anyways. I honestly don't think they care if an employee is successful or not. I mean, if they don't work out, who cares? They're just trying to get someone, because if they really wanted somebody who would do an amazing job, they would keep their employees instead of just doing all these layoffs. It's not like they're laying off people and hiring nobody else. They're laying off people who have the experience, the know-how, know the workarounds, know the company culture, know the key players. They have people who are very well trained, and maybe they weren't trained from the HR department, but they were trained on the job, and they were trained through going through lessons, and they were trained through getting in trouble, and they were trained through maybe getting on a PIP, and they were trained through seeing other people fail around them. So it's not a matter of companies even wanting someone who's trained, who can do the job the very best. It's about how much work can we get out of someone we're paying the least? How good of a job can someone do who we're not paying that high of a salary to? So I get that these companies are not trying to train, but let's talk about why they should train and maybe some things that they're missing out on by not training. And the article says, it goes without saying that employee training is beneficial for organizations of any size, but to what extent? A strong training and development program can have numerous short and long-term benefits, including increasing employee engagement and retention rates, encouraging innovative thinking, mitigating risk, and giving your organization a competitive edge. Still not convinced? These 39 statistics on training and development will change your minds. Before we even dive in and talk about just some of these things here, in 2021, these organizations may have wanted these things, but in 2024, from my experience and talking to you guys in the comments and reading stories from other people, these companies don't want a lot of these things anymore. They don't care about retention rates. They're just trying to lay off as many people as possible and still keep the lights on. They're not worried about innovative thinking. The CEOs and the leaders of the corporation have their ideas, and they just want mindless sheep to execute these ideas. And as far as a competitive edge, I mean, I've said this before. I mean, have you tried to use one of your favorite apps lately? I mean, really compare it to like 5 years ago. So not like a brand new app, but I feel like the quality of everything has gone down because these companies don't care. Have you tried calling in for customer support lately? Yeah, you're not going to ever talk to someone in the States because these companies don't care. These companies are going to do anything to squeeze a dime out of a nickel, and they don't care. As long as they can keep their lights on, as long as the business stays open, customer service, who cares? Customer experience, who cares? So things have really, really gone downhill in 3 years, in my opinion. I'm going to go to a section of this article called Employee Training Statistics. And it says employees value training opportunities just as much, if not more, than their employers. The modern professional knows the recipe for a successful career is ongoing learning and growth. Yet companies often fail to provide their employee with the proper tools for development. And we're just talking about on the job training. No, we weren't even getting into training at the next level. I mean, I've been in an organization where I was like, can I get this certification? I mean, it's like $300, but it'll help you. It's for my role. And they're like, no, 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 no. So they don't want you to grow. They're like, hey, go get Udemy for $10. Go learn something on YouTube. And not that you can't, but dang, they don't want you to develop. They don't want you to grow. It reminds me of that old meme where someone's like, well, what if we train the employee and they leave? And then someone else says, what if we don't train them and they stay? That is really where we are right now in 2024 going into 2025. So we got the background. Now let's go through some rapid fire of these statistics. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all 39. You can read those for yourself, but let's see how many we can get through in the next couple of minutes. Nearly 59% of employees claim they had no workplace training and that most of their skills were self-taught. Yeah, I mean, at my last job that I had no training. There was no illusion of training. It just wasn't a thing that was offered. 74% of workers are willing to learn new skills or retrain in order to remain employable. And nobody really wants to do something and continue to do something that they're bad at. I mean, there's people who don't care whether they get as much done as they possibly can. There's people who are slackers or whatever, but for the most part, people want to be able to do their job well. I mean, if they got to spend this much time at work, they want to do a good job, even if it's just to get a promotion, get a raise, but nobody just wants to blindly walk around the office and just guess at what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's not fun at all. 87% of millennials believe learning and development in the workplace is important. 59% of millennials claim developmental opportunities are extremely important when deciding whether to apply for a position. And yeah, I guess that's something you can ask in your job search. I mean, a lot of times these days, the jobs are hard to find, so you might not get it, but I guess it doesn't hurt to ask if they have some kind of development or onboarding that they offer in your new organization. Only 29% of employees are very satisfied with their current career advancement opportunities available within the organization. 34% of employees are very satisfied with the job-specific training, even though 41% of them consider it to be very important. 74% of surveyed employees feel they aren't reaching full potential at work due to a lack of developmental opportunities. 41% of employees consider their organization's career advancement opportunities a very important factor to their job satisfaction. 76% of millennials believe professional development opportunities are one of the most important aspects of company culture. You mean it's not pizza parties? 76% of employees say that a company would be more appealing if offered additional skill training to its staff. 59% of employees invest in their own upskilling to a certain extent. 61% of adults in the United States seek career development opportunities when considering job opportunities. Yeah, and even if you ask, though, there's no guarantee that your on-the-job training is going to be any good. It could just literally be, oh yeah, we do on-the-job training, we get you up to speed, we tell you everything you need to know, and then it's maybe a 10-minute YouTube video that they have publicly for everyone that's going to give you no insight into your actual role. And then the other part that I had saved that I won't go over because the video is already getting a little bit long is about online training statistics and how people would love online training. But the reality is, I mean, there's no more remote jobs. There's going to be no remote training. There's probably not even going to be any training, and you're lucky if you get any work at all. That's kind of just where we are, unfortunately. So I'd love to hear what you think. The job that you're currently at, have you had actual onboarding training, or is just kind of figure it out as you go? If you're interviewing for a new organization, is that one of your questions? Is it about the onboarding, about the training, about career advancement, or are you just trying to get any job right now? And what is your thoughts, and what are your thoughts about how training has evolved or really fallen apart over the last 3 or 4 years? I'd love to hear about that and talk to you about that down in the comments below. Talk to you later.